Good morning. Y'all, I literally sat here talking for like 10 minutes straight, realizing my microphone wasn't on. What a silly goose moment of me. Like, wow. Anyway, to start again, hello. Welcome. I'm so happy to see you, theoretically see you, 'cause I can't. Um But anyway, hi, I'm so happy to be here. Um, so for some context, as I'm recording this, I am in good old Savannah, Georgia, where I went to school, got my degree, and I felt like it would be the perfect opportunity to talk about this certain topic for this week's episode. Um, so yeah, should we just get right on to it? Today, let's have a little chat about the post-grad life. Shall we? Oh, man, y'all, it is a hot stinking mess out here in the post-grad world. I have some friends who've graduated from college from their undergrad in the past 3 years. Some friends who I've recently graduated with from this year. I've graduated this year from SCAD, i.e., the Savannah College of Art and Design. I graduated in June of this year, in the year of our Lord 2023. Crazy. Um, but yeah, I got my BFA, Bachelor's of Fine Arts in Fashion Design, with minors in accessory design and drawing. So I really went above and beyond with this my collegiate experience. Um, but yeah, so for my own personal experience, I was a non-traditional student. I had been in my undergrad for 7 years. Um, so I graduated high school in 2016. I was at the University of Colorado Boulder for 3 years. My freshman year, I was a physics major. Who would have thought? Not me. Actually, obviously, I did think I would, and clearly it didn't work out for me. Being a physicist was apparently not my calling. Um, Honestly, like, I feel like I think often about if I did stick with physics and did become a physicist. I think it would have been really cool. And I'm still very like interested in the sphere of physics. But clearly that wasn't my calling. And so I did that for my freshman year, and then after that I transferred within the school to a different major, and I was at the College of Environmental Design. I wanted to become an architect for a minute. Um, Clearly, that also wasn't my calling, but who knows? I think maybe one of these days, I might y'all might catch me being an architect because it really does it really does inspire a lot of my creativity and my creative projects. So you know maybe one of these days we'll see. But yeah, so I did that for about 2 years, and then um, after that, I made the big decision of just transferring schools um, and coming to SCAD for fashion design and, following my calling because, I was I wasn't happy with the work I was producing, and I think part of it was I just wasn't happy at CU Boulder. Um, and so I made that really big jump into just transferring schools the year I would theoretically be graduating. Um, and so, yeah, that was huge. And I think it was really good for me to decide to do that because coming to SCAD, I started being really happy with my work, and I really felt like I had found my purpose and feeling happy with what I was completing my degree in because there I did have this expectation that I would from my parents that I would get a college degree, which is yeah, that's fair. But yeah, so I finally found something that I felt would be, worth putting all of that time and money into. And so now, 7 years later, here we are, graduated. And, being in school for that long, I got very tired of school, very tired of like these project deadlines, these expectations, yada, yada, yada. But now I miss school. Sorry I said it. I miss school. I really do. I miss having that like given structure and, having those like built in communities and just feeling really putting in time into my creative process. Whereas now that I've graduated, and we'll get into it in a little bit, but now I have to do it myself. Um, but yeah, anyway, so that's kind of my background in my collegiate experience. So, and there are like people who are very happy with being post grads, and people who aren't as happy with being post grads. And it really is just it's a different experience for everybody. And I'm not saying at all that I um, you know, hate not being in school anymore, but it's definitely something I'm having to really get used to, especially being in school for so long. I have to get used to a lot of different things now. And so that yeah, there were some things I wanted to talk about with being post grad. Um, the first off being the job market. Um, it's como se dice awful. The job market is horrendous right now because it's I feel like with our current economy and the um COVID pandemic having affected a lot of, you know, interactions, the economy, the job market, how all of this stuff was affected by COVID, and it's just continually like the imperfections are slipping and becoming more apparent. Like the cracks are showing, babes. So, um, right now, and whether it's true or not, and whether or not it's in the fashion industry, it's not what I've seen is not necessarily like just in fashion, but in general, there are companies who are putting out fake job postings, making it seem like they're hiring when in reality they're not. And there are also, companies who are hiring, a bunch of people and then firing entire teams. And what for? I wish I knew. I wish I could tell you. I honestly have no idea what that's about. I think it's like something to do with this idea of like numbers and how much companies are making and, you know, quarterly reports and whatever. I don't really understand the full scope of it, but it makes job searching very difficult. And I see people on TikTok being like, I've been searching for jobs, like I was fired from a job and I've been looking for a job for like 2 years now, and I literally haven't gotten a damn thing. And it makes it very frustrating because it's like, what are we supposed to do, And so it's just weird, and it makes things very confusing because, right now I am currently working um, as a receptionist at a medical office, and I'm very grateful to have gotten a job immediately after graduating, especially a job with benefits. That's been incredibly helpful, and again, I'm grateful. Um, Obviously, it's not my end goal, it's a step towards my career goal. I'm not wanting to be in that for forever, you know? And so while I'm working 40 hours a week full time, I'm also job searching, like updating portfolios and resumes. And if you're in any sort of career field and you're looking to work corporate or work for a company, you know that you can't submit the same resume and portfolio to the same like 10, 15 companies. You have to cater your application materials to fit what each brand is looking for and what, their aesthetic, their styles, their brand values. And so what makes it hard is that you're not making just one portfolio or resume, you're making 10, 15 portfolios to match that of the company. And you're having to create new projects that cater to certain companies, that cater to certain skills that companies are looking for. And it is very hard because that that and then job searching and applying for jobs, that's a full-time job in itself. It is so much time. And right now, again, working full time job applications, trying to take back control of my health, trying to do things that I've been wanting to do for so long, like this podcast, um, things that fill me with joy. It is so hard to balance. It's so hard to find that perfect balance of like doing all of these things while while at the same time feeling like I'm progressing forward, like I'm getting somewhere. And so it's definitely been a life lesson in prioritizing, finding out like, okay, time is a limited resource. What should I be focusing my time on? Because put you can't take time. You have to sacrifice time. Like it doesn't you have to give up something in order to give it into something else. And so that's definitely been a big lesson as a post grad in terms of that. And we all think that we'll end up in certain places after we graduate, and we end up not. People are doing a whole bunch of different things, like whether, people are actually going into the industry, whether it is finding a job or like really just even getting into an internship, or, honestly, people even just going into things that have nothing to do with their degree, and not wanting at all to get into the industry that they got their degree in. It's honestly very interesting. And then you have people who go to grad school, which honestly I keep rethinking whether or not I should have just gone to grad school. um, but anyway, yeah, it's just a lot. And on top of these companies, you know, there's already having a hard time looking for job postings. Some of these job postings have such weird expectations. Now I feel like for any industry, people are like, yeah, like these entry level jobs that are supposed to be for entry level people are now expecting you to have 5+ years of experience right out of college. Like, what are you talking about? Like, what are you saying? I don't understand, because how how do you get that experience unless, you're like literally working at the same time as you're going to school, which can be very difficult. And there are people who do it, but it's so hard to be able to have that experience while at the same time, well, balancing. So anyway, so there's like that, and then people I've seen like job postings for like internships for like these luxury companies in New York, and they're like, "Oh, like you can here's like an internship posting, but you have to be a student in New York." Why do I have to be a student in order to want to learn? Like I'm looking for something, and just call me a student of life, please, because what the flying fuck? Like why are you only looking for these very specific people who live in very specific places, and you can tell they're looking for a certain demographic. And these are like, I don't know, it's just so crazy to me, and they make it so fucking hard for no fucking reason. Like I want to learn as much as any student. Like I was a student, and like please, why? I really just don't understand. And so it makes it super hard. And when I was in school, I wasn't able to do internships during the summer because I was taking summer classes. So I wasn't in my undergrad for 10 fucking years, you know? Um and I can actually like, graduate with my peers. And so I wasn't able to do internships, and I have like some experience through before or from before I transferred schools and fashion, but there was a summer where it was the summer right before senior year where I was trying to decide like, oh, should I do an internship or should I take this class so I don't have to take, you know, all these classes during my first quarter of senior when I would absolutely be dying if I did take these extra classes. And so it was like, do I save myself during senior year or do I take an internship? And I ended up just taking a summer class. Um, and so I don't have any internship experience. And I think that definitely affects like, what jobs I can apply for. And so I'm looking for internships as well as jobs now. Um, but these internships are looking for students only. Like, what are you talking about, bro? Ugh, it's exhausting. It's all just so much. So, for those of you who are out there job searching, I believe in us. I believe in you and me, and we're gonna get this money. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna get the job. We're gonna do great. We're gonna find something. I believe in us. So, anyway, next thing that I wanted to talk about was, after you graduate and you've found this community of friends and you really feel like you have a sense of belonging, and then you graduate and then everybody moves away. It is so heartbreaking, dude, because to go from having these people you can count on, feeling that community, to suddenly like being nowhere near each other. And so like for me, I moved back home to Colorado. While some of my friends are still in Georgia, some of my friends are on the East Coast up north in like New York and stuff. And we just all live so far apart now, and we're not as easily accessible with each other, which is hard, especially like, trying to keep up like FaceTimes and calls and texts. It's very hard because now people are on different schedules. People have very different lifestyles now because we're not students anymore. It's hard and it's lonely, for real. And so trying to, not let it affect my self-worth because, my friends are still my friends, and it's just different now. Like times change, things change, and it's just something to get used to now. And so now um it's, not fair to want the same things as before when we all were still living in the same city. um Now I have to, if I want that sense of community again, I have to put in the work to meet people and to build that up again. And it's going to be the same every single time, like moving, changing jobs, you know, doing different things. Like there's always going to be change. You can't expect things to stay the same. And at a certain point, it's deciding how much it'll affect you, what you're wanting from your friendships, um, what you need from your friendships. And then, yeah, just putting in the work into finding new friends. And it's hard, but it's definitely doable. I've definitely had to do it several times in my life before, where there would be periods where, it doesn't feel like I have somebody I can go to, somebody I can just call up and hang out with. And it definitely gave me a chance to learn how to get comfortable with being by myself. Not necessarily being alone, because I can be my friend. I can be my best friend. And I feel like that's what people should do, is treat themselves as like a best friend, because I think it is important to learn how to spend time with ourselves. Um, and then, like learn how to meet people. So none of it is bad. It's just different. And it can be incredibly hard. It's doable. And you're not the only one who's feeling this. There are a lot of people in this world who feel loneliness and feel completely disconnected. And I just want you to know you're not the only one, and it'll be okay. You're not the only one who's feeling these feelings. You're not alone in the world, as you might think you are. There are a lot of people who are experiencing this as well, so, and you'll figure it out. It'll be okay. Things will be okay. And this is also a reminder for myself. But for real though, like things will be okay. We'll find our way through the world and meeting people and creating that sense of belonging again. So anyway, that was a bit on a drab note, but my next thing I wanted to talk about was, as I had mentioned before, having to create my own routine, because now that I'm not in school, I don't have like syllabi, I don't have deadlines I have to meet anymore. I don't have things I have to build my schedule around anymore, except for work, but it's work. Who cares? I'm just kidding. Um, but, I'm no longer in a space where I'm forced to have to get in touch with my creativity and, do things that I am passionate about. I now have to create my own routine. I have to create my own schedule. I have to push myself to do the things that I want to do that make me feel joy in my life, that I did at school. And it's hard because, again, going back to balancing life work while also trying to take care of ourselves, while also trying to feel like we're moving forward in our lives. It's so fucking hard, dude. But it is what it is. And I think, especially, it's important for us to like keep that drive, even if we're not in a place that we wish we were or that we thought we'd be. Like, it's important for us to keep that drive to get to where we want to be. And, maybe it's taking like a week or two to figure out a schedule of like, okay, here's a project I want to do, and here's how I'm going to dedicate what free time I have to said project. Here's like my own deadlines. Here's like my goals. Here's how much time each day or week that I'm going to save to commit to so and so thing. like forcing ourselves to take accountability for our own actions for ourselves. You know what I'm saying? Um, the idea that consistency is sexy. That's one of the life mottos that I try to live by is consistency is sexy because consistency translates into all of these different things. And then in terms of, sticking to our own routines, it actually provides results. Like say I've been like going to the gym, trying to go to the gym a certain number of days a week, for health, for getting stronger, yada yada yada. And sticking that to a routine and that consistency of like, okay, even if I'm really tired or even if I don't want to, I'm still going to do it because consistency is again what will provide those results. Like it's not going to be like, oh, like I'm going to go to the gym like once every 2 weeks but go really hard at the gym for this one session. Like it having that sort of disconnected routine, it doesn't help with anything. Consistency and just showing up proves results because you're constantly putting towards it as opposed to doing a lot only once in a while. You know what I'm saying? And so that applies to like projects, that applies to um any sort of goals that we have for ourselves. And yeah, that's also really hard. Consistency is really hard. Um, and I'm trying to learn how to be better with it, about pushing myself to really committing to myself. Um, but it's definitely been a journey. Absolutely. So, yeah, that's that. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about, especially with like being, a non-traditional student and thinking that after graduation that we have these expectations for ourselves, we have this idea of where we'll be after graduating, or like 3 months after graduating, and it's and then not meeting that, not being where we thought we'd be, not doing the things that we thought we'd do. I definitely do feel like a sense of um being behind. 26, not not having a job in my industry straight out of college, going back home and living with my mom, living with my parents. It's a hard feeling for sure, while there are people who are doing all of these things, and then even people who are getting their masters and still doing what they are excited about and passionate about. It's definitely a lesson in realizing that life never goes the way that we expect it to. And it has nothing to do with how worthy we are, like just because I am not in a fashion job has nothing to do with how good I am at designing, at constructing, at this or that. Everybody is on their own paths. Everybody has their own timelines, and we can't compare ourselves to other people because we are not them, they are not us. We don't have the same experience, and we also don't have the same connections, we don't have the same anything. And so it's unfair for us to compare ourselves to other people and have these expectations for ourselves when we are not these people. And it's of course easier said than done, especially with these societal expectations that, oh, like at 25 you have to be married and have a kid and have a nuclear family and have a job in finance or business or some shit. And it's like, well, no, like that is not everybody's dream. That is not what everybody wants. And unfortunately, like that's um an expected timeline that's been passed down for generations when, times are changing, people are realizing they don't want that anymore. But because they don't want that, or because they're like wanting to do something else or having their own timeline, it like not meeting that makes, me at least feel like a failure. When in reality, like, I'm not. I'm just making my own timeline. I'm doing my own thing. And I know a lot of people feel this way too. And it helps to know that it's, again, like something that it's not just me who feels this. Other people also experience this. And it's a helpful reminder to know that, again, we're all completely different. We all have different purposes in our lives. We're all here for very different reasons. Don't don't let it get to you. Um and it is something that I have to keep reminding myself that, like, oh, I'm not 3 years into my career. I don't live in this fancy high-rise apartment. I don't, like, you know, blah 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 or whatever. And that's okay. I will find my own way, and it'll all be just fine, because at the end of the day, like, as long as I'm doing what I love to do, as long as I'm feeling happy with what I'm creating, happy with the life that I have, or at least am finding ways to work towards having a life that I want, that's all that matters. That's all that matters. Nothing else matters. Like, none of it matters because I'm working towards getting to a place that I want to be at. That's all that matters. On that note, I feel like I've been talking for so long and I'm so out of breath. I need to figure out how to, like, breathe and talk at the same time. But anyway, thank you for coming. I hope you enjoyed this episode. This podcast is now live on Spotify, Apple Music, and YouTube. Um, Handles are all the same. Let's have a little chat. Follow the Instagram for updates on new episodes. Handle at let's underscore have underscore a underscore little underscore chat. So, thank you so much for coming, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye bye.